Here we are. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
So, as always, we wait for like 1 or 2 minutes to let the people come in. Maybe in the meantime, if you're already there, you can already type from where are you joining, like maybe what is your job title, how is the weather outside. We are like, or I'm dialing in from Regensburg at the moment. It's quite cloudy and foggy and cold. So yeah, it would be nice to have some sunnier place. I think, Heiko, you have some sunlight over there in Munich, right?
Absolutely. Here in Munich, it's sunny. It has 17 degrees. It feels like spring. Actually, it is spring. So really a nice weather.
Nice.
Yeah,
Maarten, how is it looking at your end?
Yeah, calling in from Belgium, near Brussels, and it's been an awesome spring day here. Spent the lunch in the sun, actually. So perfect day here.
I had coffee in the sun.
Yeah, nice.
Alrighty. Nice. Okay, I think we wait a little bit longer. Hopefully, London calling, sunny and 18. Oh, today cooler and cloudy. Nice. I think when is the Gartner coming up? 2 or 3 weeks?
10 days.
10 days. Yeah. So yeah, interesting to see how it's looking then. Oh yeah, and we see it filling up. Maybe again the call. Just type in the chat where you are from, how the weather is, just till we start the IVIP webinar. Rotterdam, Norway, nice. Spread all around Europe. Norway calling winter.
Winter.
You're a little bit deeper into the winter still than we are, right?
Yeah, but anyway, a nice white winter is nicer than a foggy, wet, cloudy weather.
South Africa, sunny 27 degrees. Oh. Wow, that's awesome.
Okay, he wins.
So Manus and Record, in case you need a demo, let me know. I'm hoping to come down to South Africa.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, I think we dive right in. It's 15:03. I think most of them are here. Yeah, a warm welcome to everyone to the IVIP webinar. Today we talk about like the new player or the new kid on the block, which is IVIP, Identity, Visibility, and Intelligence Platforms. And we want to find out, or we want to see like the opinion, if it's like a game changer or if it's a hype. Please, we really want to engage with the crowd. I try to curate as much as I can, that I like funnel everything into the questions as well. So please use the chat. I always will try to like give some call to action in between. And yeah, then I will just try to bring it in. My name is Timo Kopp. I'm the managing director from Sonic B. We are specialized on visibility and intelligence platforms, but identity overall. And yeah, today I meet Heiko and Maarten, who are the CEOs of the leading IVIP platforms in Europe. Maybe, Heiko, can you give a little introduction, 30 seconds to a minute, and then we go to Maarten?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Timo. I'm Heiko. I'm the CEO of Nexis, one of the leading IVIP vendors, headquartered in today cloudy Regensburg in Germany, having a strong focus on regulated customers where we bring in visibility and remediation when it comes to their challenges within the authorizations landscape across a variety of IAM products. I've basically a very large background in cyber and especially identity and access management, so working in the industry for more than 20 years now.
Perfect.
And
welcome, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, very similar background actually, but not from Germany. We're from Belgium, close to Brussels, and yeah, I've been spending my whole life in cybersecurity. Started with PhD, then identity and access management expert, and now founded, or 7 years ago, founded Elimity. And really our vision, our mission is IVIP. Wasn't called like that back then, so this is definitely something that I want to go deeper into, what we have been calling it across the different years, the multiple years, but it's really about helping companies gain control, prove that they're in control of who can access what, and do that as fast as possible. That's our whole mission.
Perfect. Thank you. Happy to have you here. And looking forward to a nice discussion. Before we start in, or before I set the scene here, maybe into the audience as well, type in your biggest blind spot or your biggest pitfall at the moment you face in your daily work with identity and access management. So maybe we can already dial some things in or take it into the discussion. But yeah, to set the scene, why are we doing this today? I mean, Gartner came up with the term IVIP last year between July and August. I think I jumped on the train back in August when everyone was on holiday. But yeah, this is basically the introduction of like visibility and intelligence into the IAM space. They recognized tools like Nexis and Elimity as like a different player as the typical IGA platforms like SailPoint, Okta, or MADA. And today we also want to find out why is that? Do we need a new buzzword, as we call it, or is it really like the game changer we are searching for? Also, like if we take it into consideration, Maarten Decat was like, yeah, it's like a good term, IVIP, but he's more like, we should call it IVOP, like more into the observability platform, more come into action after you have the insights. So I think this is also something we should discuss today. Like, what is the intelligence, the observability part? And is it only tech? Is it only like a new tech, a new tool on the market? Or is there a bigger picture behind, and how does it fit into the maturity models we have in the market, or also like the identity fabric Maarten Decat is referring to all the time? I think that's to set the scene, everyone. And if you have questions, type it into the chat as said. So yeah, let's maybe dive right in. Heiko, Maarten, this is to both of you. Like, what are, in your perspective at the moment, the top, or like also like in the past, the top 2 problems you face in your day-to-day work? And also like, why are you like CEO of Nexis and CEO of Elimity? What's driving you through the day, and what problems do you really want to solve?
That's a bunch of questions. That's a bunch of questions.
You go, Heiko.
you mentioned the first most important challenges. So well, basically, it depends very much on the kind of customer. So one thing is for sure, that customers still are overwhelmed at the complexity of authorizations. Whether we are speaking of role-based access control, dynamic roles, whether we speak about attribute-based access control, or whether we speak about PBAC, policy-based access control. At the end, it's always, as Maarten said before, who's allowed to access what and why and how long. And when we can help customers to kind of getting more visibility into the landscape, who has access to what, and support business owners in kind of deciding easier who is still allowed to have access to important resources, then there is a lot of things to win. I don't just speak about kind of, normally it pops up in people's mind, access review about static assignments, but at the end of the day, you have to review also kind of policies, whether you're still fine with the policies, and I guess enabling business users with a background not in IT, and especially not in identity and access management, but a finance manager in a bank, an HR manager in an insurance company, someone from marketing in a big manufacturing company, to decide, are my team members still allowed to access these applications, these processes, this data? This is still an important question. Besides that, a lot of other things like application onboarding or compliant governance documentation to have really evidence proof for auditors is also an increasingly important topic for so many of our customers.
Perfect.
Maarten.
Yeah, as you said, Heiko, many different questions that Timo asked. I think one of them that I maybe want to zoom in a bit more compared to your answer, Heiko, is where did it all start, for us at least? And that's also the problem back then and still that we want to solve. And truly, we were working in identity and access management with IAM teams of the biggest companies in Europe, security teams of smaller but equally complex companies and so on. And so at some point, we started thinking and started seeing that there's this question of who can now access what, and it's not answered apparently by an IGA. Many of these companies already have that. There's this need for a visibility. Either you don't have an IGA yet, you're at the start of that journey, and if you're looking at that from a security perspective, that's a different question. Then we want to automate all of our joiner mover flows and so on. Even if you have an IGA, if you're one of those big enterprises, you have an IGA, you have a PAM, you have Active Directory, Enter-ID, you have all of those things, still the basic lack of visibility, of control is missing. And that's made us think. We started building then another approach that is now being called identity visibility. But the gist is, the basic problem that we want to solve with our customers is allow them to prove that they're in control with as little effort as possible. And if you come from that angle, and the answer from the market is, yeah, you need this big ass IGA project that is going to take 2 years, and the value from security perspective is at the end of that whole project. Of course, there will be companies that say, that doesn't sound like what I'm actually looking for. And that is what, for us, made the ball starting to roll. That's the basic idea that we said, doesn't the market need something different there? Let's just build it. And that's what is called now IVIP.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Let me add one thing on that. You mentioned the big ass IGA projects that will be providing results in 2 years. And this is basically often a scenario where so many customers would be lucky about. Recently, I was talking to a big bank with a really professional IT team, 2,500 application. They decided 5 years ago for a new market-leading IGA solution, and have managed to integrate 500 out of 2,500 applications. So 2,000 applications missing, the same speed. It's 20 years when you're a kind of average-aged IT manager in the age of mid of 40, you won't be finished until you retire. And just for the initial rollout, not kind of sundowning, integrating new applications, or changing the IGA on the next 20 years. So in parts, it's really concerning how long things are taking. And then we're not talking just about one IGA, but a legacy, a new IGA, another newer IGA solution. And this makes it extremely difficult, like Maarten said.
And Timo, if I may add to that again, sorry for maybe going straight to your questions. I apologize up front, but I also want to add, it's not like IGA is a bad thing. I think one of the risks in our communication that we see as well is we don't really believe or say that IGA is bad. It's just a different kind of problem. So if you're a big enterprise, you have to have it. There's just no question about it. You have to automate those processes. There are just not enough sysadmins in the world to do all of that manually. But especially in the last years, you see that more and more companies look at IAM from a security angle. They want to show that they're in control. They want to remove risks. They want to remove orphan accounts, want to know who has privileged access, who can access privacy-sensitive data. If you ask those questions, then a data-driven approach is just far more efficient. So just to add, I don't diss on IGA. Their products are awesome, to be honest. They're great products. It's just a different problem that they solve. And the problem for IVIP is really, literally, it's in the name. If you need visibility, if you need intelligence, you need the data. That's something else, something different.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's exactly where we also had to. You already took a lot of thunder, but also I just try to sum up your reply. IVIP is all about bringing IAM, the backbone of your infrastructure, in every infrastructure of companies, also back to the business. Don't make it an IT anymore, which is all the IGA and IAM normally doing. It's integrated within all the APIs. It's gaining this big pool of data and of access we have, but is not talking in the right way to the business, and also not enhancing the data in the way you need it. I think this is exactly where the IVIP comes into place, and also to maybe prevent a little bit of the tool sprawl and gain more business impact, more create a real business case, why it really matters. It's not just about security anymore. It's also about business enabling and business efficiency. I think this is already did I miss something now? I think this is basically what you meant with that, right?
Yeah, it's a good introduction. And by the way, in that sense, if you look at the definition by Gartner, by the way, they just nailed it, in my opinion. It's about rapid deployment, visibility. It's about the breadth of things. Also include or connect to systems that don't really fit into the typical IGA way of working, but you still need to have provable control about. It's about, like it's just asked in the chat, it's about human identities, workforce, customers. It's about non-human identities. It's all of that. And that just becomes a data problem. And that is the whole idea behind IVIP.
Let's do a quick one before we dive into the next one, because I think this is one very good question. Try to keep it quick, but Alex asks, if an organization already has Omada, SailPoint, or One Identity, why would it still need IVIP? How does IVIP differ fundamentally from traditional IGA? I think this question nails it. So maybe give it 30 seconds each. Heiko, Maarten. Heiko, do you want to start?
Yeah, happy to start. So first of all, most likely, not every application is integrated into just Omada, SailPoint, or One Identity. So there might be an Entra ID instance there, there might be an legacy open text instance there, whatsoever. So kind of spanning the umbrella across different kinds of IGA the company has. Adding on top, companies do have PAM and NHI solution like Girash said already, kind of so spanning the umbrella also across those solutions, kind of figuring out SOD violation, segregation of duty between PAM systems and PAM access that's managed in, let's say, a Beyond Trust or CyberArk or Safeguard whatsoever, and kind of workforce access that's managed in SailPoint, Omada, or One Identity. So many organizations are not really able to figure that out to provide remediation of that. And as my 30 seconds might be over,
Maarten, over to you.
Filled up by Maarten.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like this format. Now I can say I agree in 2 stages. No. So I agree. So it's if you already have one of those big IGAs, then typically it's a question about scale and integration and the breadth and the scope of your deployment. And something else that we also see, even if you have a very mature IGA deployment like SailPoint or Omada or One Identity, you have this treasure trove of information in there. But it's still highly complex. So we also have enterprise customers that just put us on top of a SailPoint or a One Identity to allow all of the people in the IAM team or the business owners or the role engineers and so on to just ask questions like, what does this role contain? Who is now linked to this application across all the entitlements, business roles, IT roles, and accounts, identities, all of that. And then thirdly, if I may use up my 30 seconds as well, it's also for companies that don't have an IGA yet. And especially with higher regulations, I think, DORA in the financial sector, NIS2 for the national infrastructure, security, and so on, you see that there are companies that are highly regulated and all of a sudden have to do many different things because of this regulation, amongst which also identity and access management, taking control over user access. And for those, this just is the only feasible option. An IGA is just too much work. So those are the 3 variations that we see in practice, the 3 business lines. Yeah.
Absolutely. What basically Gartner calls most of the time IGA Lite. And probably let me just to bring Timo completely out of his concept to add one thing, what Maarten said. So especially the smaller customers that don't have an IGA, they have probably just an Entra ID because it comes with, let's say, Office 365 and 365 anyway, and then they need something on top. This is where for sure IVIP can help, and this is very vendor specific. Most likely every vendor has some additional capabilities on top of it. When you think, for example, what the larger IGA players, and Alex, you mentioned a couple of them, where we do have a very friendly, better together story with all of them, Omada, SailPoint, One Identity, but they are missing governance processes for role lifecycle management. So if you do it, it's a very technology-driven thing in very technology-focused user interfaces for IAM teams, not for the business owners. And when you want to kind of interact and delegate processes and responsibilities and accountabilities to business owners, you have to have a better user experience, and you have those kind of governance processes in place as well. So it makes often sense.
Perfect. Awesome. Yes, and I really love the energy here, because also like the chat is engaging a lot. There is a question like which basically naturally goes through my script at the moment, because this would be my next question. Like, how can you settle effective IVIP if you have poor data quality, and how can you overcome this issue? I think this is, maybe I can start going into that question this time, because basically that's where we are coming in as well. We are not just like implementing software or like placing the software. We are also putting the services on top of. We have a lot of customers using SailPoint One Identity and how they are all called, but IVIP is not a flat file or not just a master data table where you can see, okay, this is member of. It's like visualizing data. It's not just visibility, it's visualizing as well. And we can typically quickly, within like a week or 2 weeks, not even, see, hey, you have still administrator accounts. This is one of my favorite stories. We found an administrator account, which is like created in 2002. The password was last set in 2003. The last logon was in 2025, and MFA is disabled. Will you find something like this with IGA? Yes or no? And how long does it take for you to find that one? And also, like, what is with your data? I mean, of course, you can put policies on top of all your groups, on top of all your like data, and say, we need to enhance the data quality. And I would also say, like, of course, you need to enhance data quality, but this is also where visibility helps you a lot, because you can already see what is basically what fits into your data quality or into your policies, but you can also directly report and also like notify the business if something is not fitting into your policies. This is exactly where the visibility, and I would say in that case, the intelligence comes in to put like on a big data pool, like the IGA is providing, putting some intelligence layer on top, which is basically dealing with all the problems we have in the infrastructures. And this I think brings me exactly to the next question. Like, what is it like? How did we? Because it's not a new topic. This is very, very discussed very much, because there are people like, they say IVIP. Finally, there is start calling out something. But there are also like people who like, it's just another buzzword. Like, it's there since a long time. Do we need another buzzword? Is it not just like fitting into ITDR, for example? Like, this is, I think, the question. Now we start with Maarten, because I'm always going from the left to the right, but I also want to take Maarten first now. Why is this emerging now? Like, why do we see this like need coming up now in the 3 to 5 years? I would say because we reach a maturity in IAM already with the IGA tools, but now we basically collected the problems. Now we need to solve them. That would be my take. But yeah, why do we need it now? And how did we call it in the past? Like, where does it like? Yeah, okay. I think you can follow up with that.
Yeah, okay, clear. So my short answer would be security. The security driver behind identity and access management has changed over the last 10 to 5 years, or 5 to 10 years. So IAM used to be about lowering the pressure on help desk for password resets and automation and creation of accounts and so on. But nowadays, the question, can you prove that only the necessary people can access the necessary things, is just an essential part of your risk posture, of your attack surface. People talk about identity attack surface for a reason these days. And so you see that companies are coming to IAM with that question in mind, and that has changed. That's the what, that's the why now for me. Because it can be that you're a small security team in a small insurance company, for example, like one of our customers, and you still have to adhere to the same regulations as the big banks, but you have to do so much with such a little team. How do you show that you're in control? How do you cover your bases? How do you cover your risks and really lower risk and show proof that you're doing the necessary things? Well, just do that through visibility. And so the question, is it just another buzzword? I don't know whether it's a buzzword or whether the term itself will stick, but that it is something different that solves a different problem than PAM or IGA or SIAM. That's completely obvious to me. The same way that maybe, well, I wasn't around in that days, of course, but 20 years ago, when you started thinking about privileged identities and you started thinking about workforce identities, probably the terms PAM and IGA weren't there, but it's also clear that it's just something different. And that's what we've seen so far, I think. So even if you have an IGA already, the question of, but who can now do what things? Who can access which systems and data? Hard to answer. If you don't have an IGA at all, and this comes back to the question about the data quality, let's be honest, guys, I haven't seen any company out there where this is not a mess. So the data quality is low by definition, but that's the whole reason behind IVIP. Because if your data quality is low and you start automating with role models and automated provisioning and so on, pardon my French, but shit in, more shit out in that case. So first clean up, make sure that you have everything under control, and then start automating. And in that sense, visibility before automation makes a lot more sense. And that's the whole thing that you see right now. Complexity is increasing, regulation is increasing, the security role is increasing. So give us a way to tackle that complexity without spending years and years and years of deployment. No, you want to do that in weeks, not years. That's my take. Yeah.
Heiko, do you want to add something there?
Yeah, not that much. So
that was a
very
strong one,
Maarten. But adding one thing, is it hype? Is it a buzzword? I think the very important thing from a customer perspective is that the baby has a name. Why? Because when you really look at the market and you wanna most likely compare whether Elimity or Nexis is better or whether both are equal, and you procure both of us, it helps enormously from a customer's perspective to have an idea. Okay, I have in my enterprise architecture, I have this capabilities or this bunch of capabilities is set. This is covered by this tool. This is covered by this tool, and I now have to kind of implement a certain bunch of capabilities called identity, visibility, and intelligence. And then you can easily map it to vendors, and you can easily do an assessment, because most of the time there is no 100% equality between all the vendors. So Elimity might have in the right direction more, we do have in the left direction a bit more, and so on. And so it allows customers to really have a good overview and insights of the market, and it creates transparency. If everything has a different name, you just get crazy when you do really working with the market. And so from this perspective, I would appreciate, being a customer of IVIP, also a clear naming and a clear understanding what is it for and why does it help and what should it contain at least, and what may it contain and what must it contain.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Also brings me directly to the next question, because you just said like you share basically a core functionality with visibility and intelligence, but you also like within Nexis you have some governance features. With Elimity you have a lot of like the ISO dashboard features, for example. Like, what is the core defining value of IVIP? So when do you call? Because we just like at the moment, everyone is approaching Sonic B and says, yeah, we want to be an IVIP partner. And I'm like, yeah, what is your IVIP capability? Where do you define IVIP? Do you just like use it as a buzzword now because there is a new thing on the block? What, in your perspective, is visibility and intelligence? Like, what is the key differentiator to IGA? And what is like, yeah, what do you need to have to be an IVIP? Maarten, do you want to start again?
Sure, yeah. For me, very clearly, it's about, again, the definition of Gartner is spot on. Rapid deployments, definitely. And then secondly, any application or source that is important to an organization. Our goal is to help an organization prove that they're in control of their user access. So we just ask them, tell us your top 5, top 10, top 20 applications that you want to include. And that should be easy. So that versatility, definitely important. And then thirdly, it's called intelligence, not just reporting, has to be usable. Has to be also usable by ideally non-technical people, like Heiko also said, but also security teams and so on. It remains a very complex piece of data. Identity and access management is about employees that have accounts, that have multiple accounts, an admin and a normal one, and then there are non-technical accounts. Technical accounts are linked to roles, business roles, to groups, to entitlements, groups of, it just explodes. Well, that is the complexity that you have to be able to cope with in order to control this problem. So the tool should also make it easy to go through that complexity, handle that, get answers to your questions, and fix results, get results, fix risks and get results. That for me is the definition of what an IVIP player should do.
Great. Yeah, so fully second on what Maarten has said. from my perspective, adding probably some additional aspects. So one is kind of it incorporates all kind of identities. So we had the question before, what's about NHI? What's about agentic AI? Asked by one person in the audience. So kind of providing this visibility and intelligence in the sense of also remediation for all kind of identities out there. From my own or Nexis point of view, but also kind of making use of IAM activity and event data. So you see kind of deviations over time when you have kind of time-based authorization intelligence. So if there are movements and changes in your landscape that might be anomalies, that might be smelly, the system should act and can give at least some information. That leads very, very quickly to kind of signals, thinking about the shared signals framework, for example, where parts of that might have a good implementation and fit into IVIP as well. But also thinking about the convergence between IAM and GSE, governance, risk, and compliance. Because with the ongoing complexity, it might make sense to say, okay, I want to not just have visibility across all my identities, but also getting visibility across all IAM integrated applications. So does every application really fulfill the requirements I do want to have that I have set in my security policies and standard as a governance organization within an enterprise customer? Can I make use of additional data like IT resource data, probably data classification when we think about the rise of agentic AI, where agents are accessing something, and I should probably have an idea. Is it confidential data, or is it strategic data, or is it non-confidential data, or is it probably public data? And so from my perspective, this is also part of an IVIP evolvement, probably not at every player completely implemented as of today, but for sure in a kind of short to midterm vision, something that's really been asked by customers.
Perfect. Yeah, and then like just negate the question a little bit, because I think this is also like one of the core challenges we have. Also me as a consultant, I am typically asked like, why do I need IVIP? Why is it not IGA? Like we have a lot of complexity already in the framework and we are not even moving to data yet. So the question is like, where will you as a tool, as an IVIP, not move in? Like, what is like a realm you say, this is not part of our business. Therefore, we have IGA, like, I don't know, the provisioning or something. Like, this is not IVIP anymore. This is not our ballpark. Maybe, Heiko, do you want to start this time?
So normally I'm saying I won't re-implement Photoshop, but probably that's not the question you have been intending. No, that there are for sure areas where it actually doesn't make sense when thinking about kind of full-blown, complete IAM suites. Then you have the kind of access management component in the sense of having an IDP, so runtime aspects where we have authorizations, decisions, also thinking about dynamic authorization, where you look players that do not just govern the authn and pback policies, but also kind of doing the enforcement. This is also architecturally wise a different play. So most likely this is kind of a natural boundary as of today, but you never know how the landscape evolves and how the industry evolves at a certain point in time. It might make sense, but as of today, I would say the kind of very runtime specific elements, being a policy enforcement points, doing policy decisions in real time and not just the governance processes around. This might be a kind of, as of today, a good boundary to say, okay, there's IVIP and there's probably not IVIP in.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect.
If I can continue, I agree. Definitely, the runtime part is not something that fits this technology. And for us as well, what you said, Timo, provisioning, we stay away from that. Our strength, our core capability, our raison d'être, if I may, is just visibility, getting the data in there together, put it into one big, we call it identity data foundation, identity data graph, if you want to call it. That's just another piece of technology. And if you want to indicate necessary change and so on, you can follow up on that as well. Really everything around provable control, but writing back to target systems, automating joiner, mover, lever workflows and so on is just another type of problem. And that in my opinion pulls in a lot of complexity, a lot of questions, and our goal is to keep that initial deployment as little as possible, as fast as possible, and that we very deliberately do by saying our goal is visibility, intelligence, everything around that. You can use that data and integrate it in other systems as well. You can share stuff with other people. That all fits the visibility and intelligence. But provisioning, runtime, no. For us, that's really outside of the core platform.
Very nice, very cool.
It aligns very nicely to a question, Maarten, where Alex is asking, what kind of insights do customers typically see in the first days or first week? So having this kind of cumbersome and heavy weight processes, kind of integrating each and every application directly with connectors and provision them, it will take time. So when IVIP creates insights very quickly, and we do have this so-called Nexis health check, where we exactly do this for customers and likely to have kind of a similar format. You see a lot of things very quickly. So you see orphaned accounts, you see kind of overprivileged identities. If you do an analysis and grouping by attributes, whether it's grouping across organizational units, job functions, or a combination of both, you see very easy outliers there, or whether your teams are really clean. So you get really visibility in a couple of days and within the first days. And this is very convincing for customers, because it's always the thing, they have implemented IGA for years. They have experience with other IT projects, and it takes a while until you see results. So when you put IVIP on existing IAM data and you have an immediate outcome and see, okay, this is bad, then you have an immediately next steps and first action items to be better. And then do it repeatedly and continuously every day and get better and better and better. A bit like cleaning your kitchen. So it's not done in a finger snip when you haven't cleaned your kitchen for weeks or even for years. But when you never start, it doesn't get better. So start, bring out the trash, fill in the dishwasher, and do it step by step, and it gets cleaner sooner or later.
Yeah, and at least know where the dirt is in the kitchen, right? That's the whole visibility thing. So I completely agree. I think from our perspective, of course, the insights, Alex, to come up with, to answer your specific question, depends a bit on the insights that a customer wants. But I would say 3 out of 4 projects for us are security driven. And then it's really, you want to have your our pledge is your top 5 systems integrated within the week. We apply the control framework, very similar to the approach that Heiko mentioned. And then things like accounts that shouldn't be there anymore. So accounts that are still active that belong to people with an end date in the past, and lists of who has privileged accounts across or privileged accesses across your SharePoint, your file shares, your Active Directory, Enter ID, your cloud environment, your GitHub, or whatever is important to you. But also data quality issues. If you have an IGA, maybe a role hygiene and identity hygiene, like empty roles not assigned to anyone, maybe entitlements still directly linked to identities while it should go to a role. Those are all types of insights that you want to have quickly, so that you can then start cleaning up, so that you can then start improving over time. And that, to be clear, is still going to take time, like Heiko said. But at least the data, the answers should not be the bottleneck to start cleaning up your kitchen. That's the whole reason. That's the whole reason of existence of an IVIP platform. Hope that answered your question, perfect. Alex.
Yeah. That's a perfect segue, because basically, I just want to mention my visibility first principle white paper here, because this is exactly what you say. You have like the technical way of like really digging into the infrastructure, digging into the data so quickly, so that we as a consultancy most often recognize that the health check and like this is all nice, but that the customers get overwhelmed. from time to time, because then you have like X thousand Active Directory groups you can delete, X amount of accounts, and like then you have like no suitability for RBAC because your data quality is not fitting. You don't have an ownership. You have a problem with NHIs. You don't know what your service users are doing. You don't have ownership of your service. This is everything you will get within an instant, basically. And this is where we come in to say, okay, we basically put those health checks and those quick results we can gain with visibility platforms into a discovery and say, is this at the moment really a problem we need to fix? Or is this something which is enough that you are aware of, but there is no priority on it at the moment. And then we bring this also into an impact effort matrix to say, okay, where do we have the lowest effort and the highest impact for the business overall, to say, how can we prioritize basically our doings, and how can we basically fix our mess? Because I like what Heiko says. We are pretty good like in ordering food when the kitchen is dirty, or like I always frame it like if our house is a mess, we just put a lock onto it. We like we secure our endpoints, we secure firewalls, we like secure everything, just that no one gets a mess or gets like a few into our mess. But still, if you are basically find your way into, and normally you don't hack into your social engineer, you log in and then you have the access the account has. And if you then can jump through, maybe he has access to, he is an owner of something, and then you can just like create access further and further and hijack other accounts, then basically someone can go into your mess and just do whatever he wants. So that's, I think, the approach to say, let's stop just securing the endpoints and just like create awareness at the endpoints. We also need to like reduce the attack surface at the identity directly, and to really know who can do what, when was he able to do it, like Heiko said, and how can we basically control the mess? Because if you automate the mess, as you say, you have an automated mess, and this is exactly what we shouldn't do.
And what I really like about what you're saying is there are still complex problems within IAM. If you're building up your governance of identities and users, ownership of groups, ownership of identities, you have to go through that. So it's not like this is a silver bullet that automates everything of that, but at least use your data to make these exercises easier. And we recently had a customer that asked us, we have this Active Directory with 40,000 groups in there, and we have no idea where those are used. So where do we put ownership? Well, if you at least have AD and Enter ID and then SharePoint file shares and all of the places, SQL database and so on in there in a couple of weeks, so that you can at least see where some of these groups are actively used. And at least, again, for a first tier of the data, it gives you answers out of the box, and that makes this process so much more efficient. It's not a silver bullet, but data, don't ignore it. Use it. Every company has this data, so please put it to work. That's just behind the technology that we built and the approach that you apply, Timo.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, I think we are close to like the questions, and I think we can also like already funnel some stuff in, because we had a question about I think NHI and non-central identities, as well as how will agentic AI impact IVIP platforms. I think this is a great question, because we see it at the moment. We see a lot of like co-pilot projects, especially like just like drawn back completely, because I mean, what is happening with an agentic AI? If an agentic AI is basically copied from my user, the agentic AI, I don't even know what I can do specifically. And I have two hands or like two fingers where I can put my mouse and can look, what can I do? An AI is just me with like 8 hands and on steroids, like who is just like using what I have. And this is exactly where IVIP comes into play in my mind, to say, okay, reduce the attack surface first, because you will have internal attacks with like agentic AI. What is your point of view there?
Absolutely. So you have 2 dimensions. So of it's called AI for IAM and IAM for AI. So what we are now talking about is IAM for agentic AI, and for sure the kind of rising complexity with the numbers of non-human identities, with the numbers of agentic agents, does need IVIP. So the need for IVIP will raise, and exactly what you said, Timo, kind of reducing the attack surface, getting proper governance processes. And like so often in IT, something is invented and customers, IT teams, all the play kits out there kind of try it immediately out, and security follows them, which is super crucial when it comes to agentic AI, because when your example with having 8 hands and being on steroids is exactly that. What's the challenge? Imagine you have had an overprivileged user in the past. So a normal employee having access to every data in the company, secret, confidential board decisions, strategies, roadmaps, M&A tracks. So what? A normal employee 5 years, 10 years ago would have had to search across SharePoints, across file shares, would have to read it, would have to find it. So it would have been basically a kind of not doable thing to really get all the information. So even if someone has been overprivileged in the past, you couldn't leverage what you really know.
Yeah.
Now with an agent who basically sucks in all the knowledge and it has access, you can immediately, with a split of a second, kind of deduce the right action. So, oh, my enterprise is planning to acquire this company, placing a stock order very, very quickly. Oh, my company is announcing very bad selling my employee shares very, very quickly. All this kind of stuff is now easily doable. Oh, my colleague has 15K more salary going to my boss asking for 25 more. All this information is then doable when an agent can have access. And these are just a simple no-brainer examples. And so I think the demand will increase tremendously, which also separates, I would say, IVIP players very good from NHI players. I guess that could have been a question already in there, whilst NHI players are probably doing the kind of this discovery of non-human identities, doing secret rotation, doing probably vaulting and this kind of stuff. There is still a need for governance processes. Who's the owner? What's the life cycle? Who ensures SOD, and so many other problems that are still not kind of either solved or not solved, as there are no kind of technical standards or idea on how to solve it at the end of the day, really in a heterogeneous environment. So it's very, very simple. I recently had a LinkedIn post about the Microsoft stack. When you are in just one silo, Microsoft, Google, AWS, then a lot of things might be easy to solve as technology is somehow integrated. But the reality out there in enterprise customers is they have a wide range of tools, and they are not in a silo with one vendor. And then the complexity really kicks in.
Yeah. Before we head over to Maarten, I just want to add to that. I mean, we are now just facing internal attacks, like seeing salaries or something. But just like imagine you have like an overprivileged account hijacked by an external attacker who now is like maybe hijacking like an old project manager or something, where you can just type in, hey, is there anywhere a password for a server XYZ, maybe to a critical system? I don't know if it's an HR system or if it's like a trading platform of a bank. And then you have the big mess if you find some account who can access the server, who can shut down your services. Then basically you have an attacker on steroids. It's not just like the intern. And this is exactly the attack surface you have. Sorry to add to this. Maarten, do you want to add?
I wanted to add multiple things, but maybe to just add one to what Heiko said about the NHI tools and so on. So the runtime part that they offer, it's a bit like with PAM, with CyberArk, the fact that you have vaulting and monitoring at runtime, that will never be something that an IVIP can lean on. But what I do really like about those new tools, those new products coming up is we are not a discovery tool. If the question of a customer is, how do I find all local accounts across 2,000 servers? I'll say, yeah, do you have Intune or do you have something similar? It's the same for the NHI. We are not a discovery. That's just a problem by itself. But if you do have that information out there, then put it into your central IVIP, your data platform as well. So it just grows. And that's what you see. That's the the best moment, I think, in the customer interaction that we can see, you have the first splendid moment is the initial demo, where the security team sees their data sometimes for the first time, is like, whoa, I knew that Frankie was a problem. I knew that account should have gone and so on. But then the second great moment is that you see the data foundation growing by itself. That someone says, hey, but why don't we add the devices? Why don't we add fleet management even we have had recently? Why don't we add that system as well? Oh, I need that SaaS application to be in there as well because it's still disconnected to Enter ID. And also, why don't we add our NHIs through that tool? Since we have it, and build your complete overview, and that's our strength. That's the strength of IVIP, I think, that you can build that overview as long as you have the data. Do something with it. Do something.
Perfect. With it. Perfect. That's awesome.
Adding on one aspect Maarten said, so they kind of surprise when IT teams really see on how their data looks like. So often they have the gut feelings, very likely my kitchen is messy, but if I don't open the fridge, it's messy and not messy at the same time. So it's a Schrödinger's fridge, so to say. As it's not really clear what it does look inside. And that's also the challenge in order to convince your management to get budget, resources, and an approval for a project. If you can't prove it on how does it look today, because it seems somehow to be working. So all the financial institutions out there are working. They're doing a good job, but they still have challenges in their authorization landscape. So having the proof, my kitchen is really dirty, certified by Nexis, certified by Elimity, and then showing, okay, it has improved over time. So showing after 1 month, after 6 months, after 12 months, okay, there was a reduction in the number of roles, in the number of help desk tickets related to access requests, and this kind of stuff.
Heiko, before you go into that, because that's the segue to the last part. First of all, a question to the audience, because we have a lot of attendees here as well. Do you like this format? Should we keep it up? Do you want to see more of that? If yes, just type yes into the chat. And also, like, we will go into like a question round, like 5 to 10 minutes. I hope that or maybe we even need a second session because we get this much questions. Just put them in. So now let's do a little speed run. 1 minute each is like, what is the if you would choose one KPI you measure with your IVIP, what KPI would be the one you would heavily rely on? Like, what would you recommend everyone to check? And also, like, stop, start, continue. Like, what action should you stop? What should you start? And where should you continue on? Heiko, do you want to start the last round off?
I can do so. There are many KPIs out there. So, but one that really hits the nail is the kind of incidents and request tickets around access stuff. So my users can't access, my users should not access anymore. I don't find the role. Can we change this role? Can we change this authorization? All this stuff can immediately be resolved when IVIP is integrated in a very good way. So you should see a tremendous reduction in the amount of tickets to make it easily. But when you look at other capabilities we provide, whether it's application onboarding or IAM governance documentation, kind of stuff, how many applications are really documented, audit, evidence, proof that your auditor or your internal auditor is happy. For sure, this KPIs as well, but kind of focusing on authorizations alone, I would say a number of ticket reduction is already a significant indicator that the project was successful.
Okay. Yeah. What would you stop, start, and continue?
What will I stop, start, and wearing the shoes of a customer?
Yeah.
So what would I stop is the kind of Wild West when it comes to creating roles and authorizations. So providing a governed process where you really have an IVIP tool or Nexis as the input area. You have proper naming convention, you have proper authorization lifecycle, you have proper approvals, and there is no I give my friend in IT a call, add this permission in this role because I need it now, or can you do a direct assignment? Kind of having strict processes, because when you have processes in place, your data quality will increase. You have the ability to automate things. So this is something I would immediately stop. So allowing everyone to do everything via just tickets request without a kind of formal process around it. And what I would start is trying to reduce when it comes to authorization governance and roles and permissions to remove static assignments as quickly as possible. So turning it into policy-based or dynamic assignments based on organizational unit, job functions, attributes or policies you have in place. Because then a lot of things can happen automatically and will especially also being removed automatically when you as an identity are in a different lifecycle phase, which is often still a challenge in so many customers.
Okay, Maarten, like one KPI and stop, start, continue.
Yeah, okay. One KPI for us is, it's a vague one, but provable control. That's the number one KPI that leads to risk and leads to audit findings, I would say. And you then turn that, of course, into measurable KPIs like the orphaned accounts, privileged accounts, all of the things that you can measure in the platform. That's really what we're here for. So really making sure that you can show that you're in control. That turns into which controls do you actually check on data of which application. So scope, risk, all of that. That's the whole thing about our platform. And so stop, start, and continue. Definitely continue using data for answering these questions, for showing that you're in control. So no doubt about that. But please stop using Excel for that and start using a decent platform that does these things for you. Now, come on, if I see customers that still do manual exports from Enter ID, turn it into an Excel sheet and send it over without data, I think, no, use a decent platform. It will save you time. It will save you money. It will make it easier to answer questions, keep the data up to date. Just use a built-for tool, for purpose tool. I wanted to say.
Perfect. That's
absolutely. It was good that
nailed
you
on
brought
the
up
spot.
the Swiss knife for IT. The excellent tool.
All right, let's use the last 2 to 3 minutes. We have 2 questions in the questions part, which is one is referring a little bit to external enterprise users which account such as large banks and retailers. The other one is taking it like directly into public and into like the digital identity. At the moment, IVIP is pretty much focused on enterprises. Like, where do you see IVIP coming into play, like on a way bigger scale? For example, I'm just thinking about having a visibility tool for my digital identity where I exactly know which access do I have across like all the internet, and like, what is thinkable there? Like, what do you think can be done there?
So I'm happy to provide you a personal discount when you need Nexis, Timo. So that's a good question. Probably that's a different angle, I would say. So when you really want to have visibility across what you as an SIAM user or a personal identity are using across various services in the internet with different players, then it's probably, as of today, what I won't see within the IVIP space. What might be one day a valid scenario, this was another question, kind of will customers be integrated? Thinking about those customers out there that have 3, 4 different SIAM solutions. And you notice, luckily, you have seen this much more often in the past, and nowadays it's more and more streamlined, but where you have the possibility, there is a German airline who is still signing with Miles and More ID, with Travel ID, and with, I guess it's called Lufthansa ID. So, and I'm always asking myself, why don't they just get rid of, because it's somehow integrated anyway. For those scenarios, it might be helpful also within a company to have some solutions, but most of the time, and I guess this is a big difference between SIAM and workforce and partners or internal IT, is you have far less authorizations. So SIAM use cases are often, most of the time, focused on buying something, being informed something, or kind of very simple authorizations. When banking, that's your account, only you are allowed to see your numbers in your account, only you are allowed to make transfers, and there is kind of not that much thing that you have more authorizations than I do when you are as a personal bank customer. So there might be not that much need as of today.
Maarten, a quick take from your end before we finish it off.
I agree, actually. I think also the personal aspect is something different than the enterprise aspect of IVIP. Probably the best overview of your own personal permissions is open up your password manager. See where you have accounts and start from there, exactly. I would say. But that's a different problem. I agree with Heiko. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. I think that's the end of our session. I think we all already put our contact details into the chats. Feel free to reach out at any time, as well as via LinkedIn. Just find the right platform you want. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for also the engagement in the chat. It was awesome to see.
Yeah,
and yeah, Heiko, Maarten, thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. And to all, have a nice evening.
Thanks.
See you later,
thanks for having
everyone.
me.
Bye.
Everyone a great evening, great afternoon. As Thibaut said, if there's a need for a demo, just drop an email. So we kind of intentionally made it a lively conversation, because when we're putting out the demos, providing just a 5-minute preview won't create real value. And doing it every 30 minutes, we will end up in a boring 2-hour sales pitch show. So when you're interested, reach out. We're more than happy, Maarten and I, to dive deeper into our products.
Awesome. Perfect. Have a nice one. See you. Bye-bye.